Welcome to Puck Academy, a show about how hockey players grow on and off the ice. I'm Jason Jacobs, the host, and each week I talk with players, coaches, and experts shaping the future of player development. Today's guest is Dwayne Blais. Dwayne is a Hockey Canada certified skills coach and current skill development coach for the Detroit Redwings. Formerly, he spent extensive time working with the London Knights, Hershey Bears, and Washington Capitals in skill development. He's also the founder of Total Package Hockey, or TPH, a player development company, and the National Skill Development Association, or NSDA, which is an online video resource helping coaches break down and teach hockey skills. Now, I was excited for this one because I've gotten to know Dwayne over the last several months, and he's extremely passionate about player development. He's got very high-level skills, and he's also worked with players at all levels of the game, not just NHLers, but he's got a son that's a 2012, and he's very involved at the youth level, and he's worked with kids at the youth level, at the NHL, and everything in between. Now, this was actually the longest episode I've ever done, and we didn't set out that way. We just had a lot to talk about. We talked about Dwayne's path in the game. We talked about his thoughts on player development and parenting. And as anyone who is a hockey or sports parent knows, those are often quite intertwined. And we also talked about what Dwayne's observed over the years in terms of best practices, how the game is evolving, where the gaps and opportunities are, and where all of this is heading. I really enjoyed this discussion, and I hope you do as well. Dwayne, welcome to the show.
Hey, how you doing?
Did I get that right? Because I heard you say on other shows that everyone mangles your last name and they don't get it the French way. So I tried to get it the French way, but I was the most mediocre French student of all time when I took it in high school.
No, you got it. It was funny. So I'm from Northern Ontario, which is French, and I grew up French, and it was always Blais, and that was the name Blais. And then it's 5 letters, really not hard to say if you're French, I guess. But when I moved down south to play junior and then college, no one could say it. So I literally was one time I was at a bank, and I remember being like, what's your name? I'm like, Dwayne Blais. She's like, can you spell the last name? I'm like, yeah, Blais. She's like, oh, Blais. I was like, yeah, it's Blais. I must be messing my name up. And people have called me Blais for years, and I was like, forget it. We'll just say Blais. So normally, like in the States, I'll say Blais just because it's easier. But yeah, my last name is Blais, and you did a very good job, actually. It was very, very...
Yeah, because I heard you say that people call you Blazer, but we're just getting to know each other. I'm not about to introduce you as Blazer.
It's good, man. No, you can.
All you hockey guys say that. Oh, it's good, but I don't know. It's I don't feel like enough of an insider to pull it off.
No, you can do it for sure.
Well, thanks for coming on. So we got introduced, I think, through Nathan Bowen, or Bo, right? Another one. I'm supposed to call him Bo. Yeah. And you guys, you play together at Alabama Huntsville? Is that how you came across each other?
Yeah.
Yeah, so he came on the show and talked all about the TPH origin story. I understand, were a co-founder of TPH. And I've been really excited for this one because when he introduced me, he said that you're the best player development guy he knows, but that you're humble. And so you're not going to find a lot out there about him. And he's, soft-spoken and understated, but trust me, this guy's legit. And then we've had I forget if it was 2 or 3 phone calls over the last several months. And then I looked up some of your stuff from before the Redwings when you were doing the NSDA, where you had the podcast and some of the ice hockey systems and your coach's site, right? And I love your stuff. And I think one of the things I like about it is that you work with some of the best, but another thing I like about it is that you also think a lot about the little guys and girls and everything in between, right? And just so humble and understated, like Bo said. So anyways, I'm grateful I finally pinned you down fresh off a road trip, and thanks for making the time.
Thanks for having me, man. Yeah, it's great. And I've worked for obviously years doing this, and I've worked from, with little guys, little girls for 3, 4, 5 years old, all the way up to NHL guys. So you kind of put on different hats when you're with the young kids and then put on a different hat when you're with the older guys. But a lot of the stuff translates, so and a lot of the coaches think that it's, when you're working with, let's say, a junior player or a kid that's potentially going to get drafted or a kid that's going to potentially go play midget AAA or, U16, U18 AAA, that you got to like really change everything. You don't have to. It's just keep it simple, keep it easy, keep it direct, and look at that player and kind of see what they need to work on, what type of player that player is, number one, and what they need to work on. And when I did the NSDA, and the NSDA was a long title, and it was called the National Skill Development Association. The reason for that was, for anybody out there that's like looking at business and stuff, was I wanted to eventually, like, if I was going to continue doing that and really pursue it, is reskin that for soccer, reskin that for baseball, reskin that for other sports, right? Where you could have guys like me that are looking for a second, way to make another type of income and be able to just jump under the NSCA banner and they can make their own money on it, but do baseball, tutorials. And it never got to that point. It hasn't yet. Maybe it will down the road. I don't know. I might be done, working on that stuff, but that was my idea of it. So I wanted to make it kind of general. Even Total Package Hockey, when I started in London, people were like, well, why don't you name it like after your name? Why don't you rebrand it as Blazer Hockey or, whatever it is, right? And I'm like, no, I want it to be, if I have other coaches, which I have some unbelievable coaches in London that have come on and helped me out and worked with me, but it's not Dwayne, it's whoever's on the ice. And if they're on the ice doing the program, then I trust them and they're good and they're going to deliver a good program, right? So I never want it to be about my name. And that was the whole NSDA thing, was that, man, we can do this for other sports, down the road. So maybe that'll happen. I don't know. But yeah, that was kind of the idea behind it.
So maybe talk a bit about your path into the game. I mean, it seems like, gosh, the game's been a common thread through your entire life. So when and why and how did that start?
Well, it's funny, like, and this is not, people can look this up, I'm sure, but I didn't start playing until I was 9, and I had a mom. My mom was a power skating instructor, and she figure skated, played ringette, ringette's not a common U.S. sport, but in Canada it was basically you're playing hockey with a ring, and yeah, so she played ringette and she skated and was figure skater and taught power skating like from the time I was like young all the way through. And my dad played hockey and stuff, and so being from Sudbury, you have outdoor rinks in every neighborhood in Sudbury. So there's ice everywhere. The winter starts in basically October, November, all the way through till March. Like you can skate anywhere. And so my mom and dad have 2 boys, 1 year apart, like literally we're 14, 15 months apart, and didn't want to play, like zero interest in playing. So this is coming up to like 8, 9 years old now. So we missed the boat. Like our boat's gone, right? As far as
how are you going to get to the brick if you're not even playing?
Yeah, you're done. You're done.
You're not elite.
No, no, we're trash. We honestly never even like really held a hockey stick much as far as playing, like legit. Couldn't even skate really. So at 8 or 9, we move into this neighborhood and a bunch of kids are playing road hockey. So we started playing road hockey with them and kind of liking it. And like, we're terrible. And one day I come in and my dad asked me every year, like from the time I was probably 4 or 5, like, you want to play hockey? And no. And my mom was very big on like, don't push them. Like, just, my dad was kind of getting anxious about it. And when we moved to this neighborhood, I was like, Dad, I think I want to play hockey. And he's like, I think by the time the word hockey came out of my mouth, we were both in the truck. We were going to Play It Again Sports and buying like used gear, and we were all kitted up. And now we're playing hockey. My first year of hockey, this is giving my age a little bit, but in Sudbury we had outdoor hockey leagues. Like we played outdoor hockey in outdoor rinks. So my first team I ever played on was like an outdoor hockey rink, which is crazy, but legit, like getting dressed in like in the cabin and then going out and playing like outside hockey. So if it snowed, you're shoveling in between periods. Like it was, but that was my first year, and I couldn't skate. Like put the gear on, like I could skate a little bit, but put the gear on, couldn't skate. My mom took us both, put us in a power skating program that she ran, but she wasn't on the ice for. And then after those 2 weeks, I learned how to skate way better. It was 2 weeks of just skating. And from that point on, I fell in love with it. So what happened was in Sudbury, we lived, no joke, 10, 50-minute walk to the outdoor rink. So every day I'd come home, once fell in love with it a little bit, I would come home, do my homework, bang it out, 4 o'clock, I'd walk down to the outdoor rink. I'd be there till 9 o'clock. No joke, every night, like every day. game days, like Saturdays, we had a game, let's say, I go down to the rink in the morning, play around a little bit, go home, go to my game. Like I fell in love with it. And that was my skill development. Like you think of skill development, you think of Wayne Gretzky, you know, and him, but he had an outdoor rink every winter and he spent hours on that thing. That was what I did, right? So I kind of caught up to my peers a little bit. I was bigger, stronger. So even parents now, they're like, my kid's 8 and he wants to play. I'm like, get him into it. He's bigger, stronger, he's smarter. If he or she likes it, they're gonna pick it up quicker if they really love it, like way better than 3 or 4 years old. Like 3 or 4 years old, you're battling to get your kid to the rink. You're bribing them with ice cream after the skate, or you know what I mean. So it's like, so that's kind of my start. And then once I got into it, I felt like legit fell in love with hockey, and that was it. That was my life. And my brother was a year younger than me, way more talented than I was, natural skater, like could play. Like he was very, very good, just didn't love it as much as I did. And I just worked and worked and worked and worked. And yeah, like that was my passion, man, for up until, I mean, I guess now, like I love the game and fell in love with it. So
When did teaching it start coming into the picture for you?
so going back to my mom ran the power skating program in Sudbury. What it was like a 2 week kind of a right before the season. So in Sudbury, how it worked, it was tryouts were kind of September. So in a little bit of July, but the end of July and then August, September was all power skating programs. Like there was probably, I don't know, 8 weeks of power skating programs, but they were all 2 week programs. There was 1 hour every night and you just did skating, no pucks, nothing, just skating. And when I was 14, I was playing and I was, you know, I started volunteering at this program through the city of Sudbury. And then by 16, 17, I was teaching. Like I was like a head instructor. I was running sessions, right? Because I knew it was very like, it was a unbelievable curriculum, but you, as a young kid, you kind of learned it taking it. And then when you started helping out volunteering, you kind of knew how everything went. And then it was a really seamless program, to be honest with you, on how they kind of brought you up. But anyways, by 16, 17, 18, I was running my own sessions. Like I was the head on ice for power skating. And that was my bread and butter, was skating. I was a good skater and then I started teaching it. And then when I taught it, I was like, I got better at skating just by teaching it, because you're repetition and you're seeing what kids are doing wrong and you're trying to correct it. And so, yeah, by 17, 18, I was full on like teaching skating. And that was kind of my into like the skill development part, I guess, looking forward or looking back on it now. That was kind of my in on that whole thing.
You played in college, and then it looks like you went on to play for quite some time at various levels of pro. So maybe talk a bit about that journey and about the teaching path and about, you know, how the playing career ultimately ended and the teaching ultimately took over. Like just like kind of what order and timelines did all that transpire?
Yeah, so I was fortunate. I got, you know, out of Sudbury, I got a chance to play junior hockey in Markham, which was a great experience. And then from there, I was fortunate to get a scholarship to Alabama Huntsville, which at the time when I that's where Bo went. That's where Bo and I connected. He was there a year before I was. And when I accepted the scholarship to Huntsville, Alabama, it was a D2 program going D1 the following year. So I was going to go there, play 1 year D2, and then we were going D1. And that was, you know, that's what I wanted to go to, as a D1 program. I had another year of junior left. So I had some schools looking at me and saying, hey, stay back for 1 more year. And I was like, all my buddies were already, you know, in college and doing their thing. And I had already sat back a year to play junior. And like, I don't know about 1 more year. Anyways, I went to Alabama Huntsville. And Alabama Huntsville was it like a D1B program. Like it's not your Michigans or, you know, your Michigan States, your big schools. Obviously, we played Michigan State, we played Bowling Green, we played some unbelievable schools. It was awesome, but I knew that it was going to be like a D1B, which is fine. My whole goal with going to Alabama Huntsville was to try to go play pro after. And for my goal, like at the time, this is back when clutching and grabbing and the rules were different. My whole goal was just to push hockey as far as I could. Like I'd love to play the NHL one day, but I knew realistically I was 5'8". I'm not probably going to play in the NHL the way the game was then. So I just wanted to push hockey as far as I could. So I went to Alabama Huntsville, which was unreal. I had 4 years there. It was awesome. Started TPH in the summer of one of my last years there. Started that business, which was great. And then went on to play in the East Coast League for, 3 years, which was unbelievable. It was awesome. I loved every minute of it. And then the year 2005, I think it was a lockout in the NHL. So I was going to try to go to Europe at that point. I was like, I'm not probably going to play in the NHL, which is fine. I'll go to Europe and try to play in Europe. I could skate. It was fine. I could play. And then the lockout happened. So all the NHL guys flooded Europe. So I had opportunities to go to Europe, but it was like crappy leagues and like basically men's leagues in Europe. I'm like, I'm not going. Like, I'm not doing that. So then I didn't play that. I decided that I'm not going to play. I lived in London, Ontario at the time. We'd bought a business in London, Bo and I, and a couple of buddies of ours bought a hockey school in London. So I was running that. I had bought a house and I was like, I don't know. And then the team that I played for the year before, the East Coast League, called me and said, hey, would you come back? And I was like, man, like, I don't know. And then literally when they called me, I was in my basement, in the basement of this house. I was renovating it to make an apartment. I had drywall dust all over me. I'm on my phone. Like I'm a mess. I'm like, I don't think I'm going to go back. I think I'm in one right now. And so I pursued the business side of it. And then, I kind of said, you know what, I'm going to get into this. And the whole thing too, I took exercise physiology in school. So I was going to train guys. My thing was I was going to off ice train guys and like really like, work on the performance side off ice. So I did that a bunch in London, and then I was doing on ice as well. And then I soon realized that I'm probably more suited and better on the ice than I am off the ice. As much as I love the off ice part of it, I just felt like I probably had more value on the ice. So then that's kind of where things morphed and transitioned. We ended up, long story short, but we ended up, when I started in London, I left for a year. I went and coached out in the Q, which is the CHL. So for viewers that don't know, it's like the OHL, the WHL, and the QMJHL. I got an opportunity to go coach out in the QMJHL. So I left everything, rented my house, and just left my business and let it kind of sit for a year and went out to the Q, coached there for a year, loved it. It was awesome, unreal experience. But I was like, I don't know if I want to live in a U-Haul for...
Was that your first time behind the bench?
Yeah, I'd been behind the bench, like minor hockey stuff, spring team stuff like that. But no, this is like legit, like I was, semi-professional coach now, like all of a sudden going in. And when the gentleman who asked me to coach with them in the queue, who I knew, I asked him, I said, why do you want me to go? I just finished playing. I'd been on the ice a bunch with like in London with like the London Knights, like the OHL team and stuff like that. I've been around, I've been doing stuff, but I said, why do you want me to go coach with you? And he said, because you can teach, and we're a young team, and I need someone that can teach and help these kids understand the game and teach the game. And that to me was like, okay, that makes sense. Like, I'm green. Like, I'm super green at this point as far as coaching. So I went and did that. It was unbelievable. It was great. But then I was like, I don't know if I want to be in a U-Haul or, moving around, because you're going to get hired and fired. Everyone knows that. So I'm like, I don't know if I want to do that. And I had this business in London, and I'm like, I think I want to try to pursue this business and try to push it for a year or two. And at the time before I left, I was doing like 7 different things, trying to make ends meet. Like I had no money. I was trying to make, you're doing stuff for $50 here, $100 here. And I said, I'm going to go back. I'm going to live on debt, and I'm going to push this business for 2 years. And if it doesn't work, I'm done. I'll go pursue my degree and I'll work in a clinic or do whatever. And that's what I did. I went back to London and kind of pursued this, this hockey and development, and it took off, and and once I put my whole time and effort into it, then it started to really roll, and things started to really kind of take off. And then that's kind of what took off in London and kept me there for 15, 16 years of doing development and working with 3-year-olds to NHL guys in London. So it was great.
So what did player development mean generally at the time, and what does it mean now? And I guess same question about how did you think about player development then versus how you think about player development now?
It's funny because I had a parent, like how this all kind of started to explode for me was I had a parent come up to me. The kid was a good player, and the mom and dad came up to me and said, hey, would you do privates with my son? And I said, yeah, sure. Like, yeah, for sure. But I've never done privates before, and I didn't even know, like, not that I didn't know what privates were,
Around that time, like I had never even heard that word, privates.
No, honestly, no one did privates. So I was like, yeah, for sure. Like I can do that. But so started working with this young player, and he was probably 13 at the time, and really started teaching him like at the time I was into skill development as far as my mind was. Like I could break down how to take a snapshot. I could break down how to take a snapshot in stride and really like step into it and whatever, right? So I worked with this kid a bunch, and he came back the next season. This was playing AAA, and parents were like, "What the hell did you do with it? What did you do with your kid?" Like, because we worked a ton. We worked like twice a week all summer, and we like, and I worked him. Like I was like, you got to shoot better, whatever. And he was dominant when he came back, and then I got, other parents like calling, and it's very, it's very hush hush. Like no one wants to say who they're working with or who they're doing stuff with. Right. So started to get out a little bit that I was working with certain kids, and then it just started like, blowing up a little bit. And I was very private on who I worked with, and not in a bad way, but just like I didn't expose anybody, but and then more kids and more kids and more kids. And then we had programs, we had other stuff going on too for other players and stuff. But then that's how it started taking off. I had a couple of kids that I worked with that were like, legit. And then a company from Toronto came to 3 different development companies in London and said, hey, we want to do a private school in London. And they vetted, another school, another company, and us. And I was like, again, I had no money. I was like, yeah, I'll check it out. So I went down to Toronto, checked out their school. And I was like, if I was 13, 14, this is exactly where I want to be. Like a private, like, a school where you're doing school, hockey, working out. I'm like, yeah, man, how do we bring it to London? So then we worked out a deal, brought it to London. So that kind of, again, separated us from the rest of the pack, right? We started this private school. We had 7 kids our first year. Like it was a joke. We weren't making any money, never wanted to make money on it. It was just, to me, this was the right thing to do for the kids in London that wanted to do it, that could afford it. And afford it, one thing, but we also had kids that like couldn't afford it. And we said, hey, listen, if you muck the gym, if you do this and this and this, like we'll help you out with it. Like we'll help subsidize some of the costs for this. Like it wasn't about the money for me at all. And so we had some like legit players, man. Like, and I'll name some names. I'm not a name dropper, but like we had like Nick Suzuki at our school. We had Travis Konechny. We had Lawson Kroos. We had like legit players at our school that are playing in the NHL, that are captains, assistant captains, like it's unbelievable. Like, so, and these were all young kids. Like I met these kids at 13, 14. I was working with them. It's like, hey, we're doing this academy. Like, their parents were like, man, this sounds really cool. Like, so we ended up having like some unbelievable players. Jared McCann was there. Like, I'm just trying to think of guys but like legit guys playing in the NHL right now that came through this small little academy that we ended up going from 7 to like 14 to, at one point we were 35, but I called it more of like a boutique academy. We had like, I never wanted it to be really big. I wanted it to be small, and didn't have to be elite. You didn't have to be AAA. Like, I just wanted kids that like we had a kid that came to us. He was a B player at 13, probably, 15, 20 pounds overweight, and ended up going on, years later and played D3 college hockey and had an unreal run. Like, and just a kid that was a worker and awesome. And, like, so it didn't matter. Like the guys that play in the NHL is unbelievable, but the other guys were unbelievable stories too, that just were around good people that cared about them. I didn't care about any of the politics, any of the bullshit, any of the other stuff that's going on around. If you need a hand money wise, we'll help you out. Don't worry about it. But like, if you want to do this, like we're here for you. Let's do it. And we had a lot of success with it. And it's still running. Like it's still going now. It's awesome.
When you look at the rise of I don't know what you call it, maybe the skills economy, right? The business of hockey, the spring tournament teams, the private lessons, the academies, the edge work, the shooting lessons, the Zoom film review, whatever, right? Like it's all a business. What are the elements of it that you think are healthy, effective, useful for the kids, and what are the elements of it that you think are predatory or a load of crap? And also, does it matter as you look like up and down ability levels and up and down age levels?
Yeah, I mean, I have two kids going through it right now. Like I've got a daughter who's 11 and a son who's 13, and they're right in the mix of this whole thing. And like my son and my daughter haven't played in hardly any spring tournaments. I feel like spring tournaments are the Wild West. The refs suck. The coaches have backwards hats on and shorts and flip-flops on the bench. Like a lot of the spring summer tournaments are a joke overall. Now you got your best on best and your elite tournaments, which parents want to go to because all the best kids are there. They get to know all the best parents. And like, I just think I think it's a joke. And I look at it also as like, you're going to go to Toronto, you're going to go to Boston, you're going to go to Buffalo, whatever it is for a spring tournament. You're going to spend $1,500 probably minimum on your fees, your dues, your hotel, your food, everything like that. What can you get for $1,500 with an unreal strength and conditioning, skills coach, mental, whatever you're going to put your money into? But now some of these parents do like 5 or 6 of these tournaments. So now you're looking at another 6, 7, 8 grand of just money. I mean, for 6, 7, 8 grand, you got 2, 3 summers covered of like full training, full on ice touches, full like. So I'm big on when with my kids too. Like I want my kids to be kids. I want them to go to the pool. I want them to do swimming. I want them to like compete in basketball or swimming or tennis or whatever they want to do and be athletes. And so. And I'm not saying my kids are going to be anything, but I'm just saying like at the end of the day, I don't understand the whole hype, but these parents get so caught up with it. And I think a lot of parents get caught up in I got to keep up with the Joneses. And what are the Joneses doing? Well, I got to do that. Like, oh, they're going to this skill development program. I got to go there. Or I got to do this spring tournament because they're going, all the best are all going to be there. And as well as anybody, like being involved in it, like it's crazy. Like it is insane. The parents, the whole hype around these 13, 14, 15-year-olds, like they're 15 years old. Like think of what we were doing at 15 years old. It's insane, So I really take a step back on it. I'm not caught up in the hype at all. I don't care. And I tell parents all the time, like put your horse blinders on for your kid. Know what your kid's like, know what he wants or she wants, know what they like, what drives them. And then feed that, and I'm not into it. I think the skill development stuff, if you find a good skills coach, I think it's great, if you can get in and work with them, but it also depends on the kid. If the kid wants to do that, then I say 100% do it. If the kid doesn't want to do it or is bucking you on it, then don't spend the money on it. As frustrating as it's going to be as a parent, because you want the best for your kid, you got to make sure that they're willing and they want to do it,
That's almost surprising to hear because I know where your older guy plays, and I mean it's one of the top teams in the country, and certainly the perception is that for the little guys, right? And the perception is that in order to play at that level, right? It's like there's pressure to specialize earlier and earlier, to go year round. You're kind of beaten over the head with like the Kobe Bryant clips about how, when you're sleeping, like, someone else is grinding and all the extra grinding you do compounds over time. Right. And so the kids and the parents think like, if I want to get there, like I got to grind, especially when you hear about how much harder the path is getting given some of the rule changes at the top, which then percolate, down one level at a time all the way until they get to the youth level. So let's say you do love it, right? How do you balance like trying to maximize your chances of going as far as you can with all those other things that you said, like not burning out, not getting injured, not having it feel like a job, still getting to be a kid, still having friendships, still going to the pool. Like it sometimes it feels impossible.
No, for sure. And I think honestly, one of the biggest things is checking in with your kid, like talking to your kid. You know what I mean? Like, do you want to go do this? Do you want to, and sometimes you got to push them. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying like, cause if there's an opportunity to go, to a buddy's house or to practice, they're going to want to go to the buddy's house sometimes. You're like, buddy, you committed to this team, you got to go to the practice. Like, but I think, and then also too, like, I think it's big on even my wife and I, like we talk about dads or moms making all these decisions, but even like as a family, like, every summer, the last 2-3 summers, we've gone out to, my where my wife lives out in Eastern Canada, and the kids have gone out for 3 weeks, and parents are like, you're going, like, you're off the ice for 3 weeks. I'm like, yeah, they're off the ice for 3 weeks. Like they, and my kids, I've had like workouts through their teams and different things like this. You got to run, a couple miles a week. And they do that out there. They work out, and that's up to them. Again, like I'll go to my kids and be like, hey, like you should probably run a mile today. And like every parent out there that's like, my kid always runs miles. He loves it. No, they don't. No kid loves running a mile, like, or 2 miles. Like, so they buck me on it. I'm like, you don't have to do it. I don't care. And then they feel guilty about it. And they're like, okay, I'll do it. I'm like, I'll do it with you. Let's go. And we'll run a mile. Like, we'll go do it. But try to push them in the right way. But also, they got to make the decisions on this because as they get like, the one thing too is a lot of the kids, a lot of the guys we see now at the pro level, they've been silver spoon their whole life. Okay. They've been yellow brick road their whole life. So now they get to the NHL and it's not that easy. It's hard. It's a hard league, obviously. The AHL is a hard league. Like all these leagues are hard and they're getting a healthy scratch or they're playing 10 minutes and they can't handle it. They don't know how to handle it. And they can't call mom and dad and be like, call the coach and tell them that you're going to pull your $10,000 out of the fucking budget if I don't play anymore. Like, you know, I'm not saying that's, but you know what I mean? Like, so they can't handle that adversity. And some of the guys that do are the guys that keep rising up. The guys that can't handle that, they're the ones that fall down. And that doesn't start at 19, 20 when you're making $1 million a year playing an entry level contract in the NHL. That starts at 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So as parents, we're not doing them any service by paving this yellow brick road for them. Like you got to like let them make decisions on stuff and they're going to make wrong decisions. Like, you know, tell my daughter, hey, like you got a mile run, you know, you should probably do your mile run. Like, I don't want to do it. I'm like, okay, well, should I do it? I'm like, it's up to you. Like totally up to you. Well, I don't want to do it. I'm like, okay, don't do it then. And then she doesn't do it. And then she's rattled about it. I'm like, well, that's on you. Like you didn't do it. And over the course of the summer, you don't feel as good coming back at the start of the year. You're out of shape. I told you 17 times this summer. Every week I told you that you should run this week and you didn't do it. And now this is on you. Like, you know what I mean? So, and I've had these, like my kids are young, but we've gone through this with them. And I'm like, do you want to listen now? Like, do you want to start doing this stuff or not? Like, it's up to you. I don't care. If you never play hockey again, I don't care. And this has nothing to do with hockey. This is like finishing that project for work. This is paying your mortgage. This is like, because when you get to the real world, like you got to pay your mortgage. You have to. If you don't pay your mortgage over several months, you're going to lose your house. So, you know, it's one of those things where what are we doing with these kids? We've got to teach them like how to be human beings, you know, and it starts with this kind of stuff, especially if they're motivated by it. Cause it's really easy when they're motivated by it. Cause they know when they're making the wrong decision, they're just human beings. They're going to make the wrong decision. They're not going to want to work out, which is totally normal. Who wants to work out? Like, let's be honest, overall, like, you know, if you had out of 7 days, you had to work out 4, like I'd take the option on at least 3 of them. Just do my one day and be good with it. You know what I mean? So they're no different.
I think we might have talked about this in some of our chats before we did the show, but I think what's confusing for me is you hear people that have achieved at very high levels talk about their journey, and frequently I'll hear them say things like, the biggest thing you can do for your kid, your job after the game, is just tell them how much you like watching him play. Like, don't push them, like just, you know, encourage them, create a safe environment. And then if they love it, they'll pursue it. Right. But I look at like my own upbringing and look, I had a wonderful upbringing. I'm very grateful for my parents. They did their best to provide every opportunity, but that was kind of their approach, like just loving and supported. And like, you figured out, and we don't want to push you because like, we want you to do what you love. And like, I was like the most brutal underachiever. Right. And I was like the epitome of like unrealized potential. Not that I had a lot of potential, like, oh, I had so much potential, but like whatever my potential was, I didn't really realize even a smidge of it, right? And then later on, professionally, right, I became the opposite, like so self-directed and ambitious. So on the one hand, when I'm raising my kids, right, it's like, well, I want to push them harder, right? Because I want to help them reach their potential and not have the regret from that first path. But then it's kind of like, well, but if I was pushed harder, would I have ever had that hyper ambitious like second act, right? And like, it's a good question, right? Like but like I'm interested to hear your views on that, especially given what we were just talking about the yellow brick road and how important the love is.
It's funny you say that because I was similar to you. Like when I grew up, my mom and dad were my mom was probably harder on me, not in a bad way at all, but like my mom would say, Dwayne, it's a little puck. You just got to put the little puck in that net. Like the net's so big. And I'm like, Mom, I'm trying, you know? And my dad was very like, good job, dude. You played really well. And I didn't play good today. I was terrible today. I was hard on myself. And I think it goes back to knowing your kid. So my dad knew that I was really, really hard on myself. And looking back on it now, right? And he didn't have to push me. Like, he did not have to push me. I legit would remember waking up in the mornings when I was 12, 13, 14, and like going into my parents' room at 7 in the morning and be like, hey, I'm going to the outdoor rink. They were both still sleeping. Like, hey, I'm going to the outdoor rink. And I had my bag packed. I walked down to the outdoor rink. My mom would drive in at like, this is the day I didn't have hockey, let's say, and I'd be there before anybody was there, skating around, shooting pucks, whatever. There'd be an outdoor game going on. So I'd go on the little, like, they'd have usually like a little practice, like a little like other rink. I'd go on that rink for a little bit, and then that game would be done. I'd jump back on that rink. So like, they didn't have to motivate me that way. I wish my dad was harder on me. Like, when I look at it now, I wish he was harder on me, kind of like you're saying. I wish he'd have been like, no, you got to be better. Like, I wish he would have held me more accountable. So now with my kids, I'm very hands off. Like, I don't get mad at them. I don't yell at them, but I will tell them, like, you know, the other day, for instance, my son comes on after a game. I'm like, you know, how do you think he played? It's like, and he's always, I don't know what your kids are like, but my son is always like, good. They played good. And
Same.
My wife was at that game with me, and it was an awful game, like, for him. And I was like, Maddox, if that was good, like, that's crazy that you think that was a good game. Like, so, and he's very, not a huge communicator, probably like most normal boys, just doesn't like express them. I have a daughter and a son. My daughter will tell me everything. She'll come in the car and be like, I was shit today. And I was like, yeah, so I don't have to be that hard on her, because she knows. She's like, I was shit. I'm like, I'm pulling back where I want to give it. I'm like, yeah, you know, and kind of now I'm like white gloving it a bit with her. My son's like, that was good. Like, you were not good, you know? So now I'm biting my tongue. Like, I can't. So anyways, I have the conversation with him, like, have a whole conversation with him. We ended up going through that game was videoed, obviously. So, which every game is videoed now. So we look at a couple of his shifts. I'm like, what do you think? Like, what do you see here? After kind of talking through it, I'm like, do you want to watch some of your shifts? And he's like, okay, fine. And he doesn't love doing this, and I don't do it a lot with him, and I should do it more probably. And I think for any parent, I know me personally, when I started, like, back in the day, like, it was VHS, it was brutal, but you look at your shifts, you're like, I thought I played really good, and I watch the shifts and be like, oh my God, I could have got that puck, or oh crap, I should have finished that hit, or whatever it was. So we watched some shifts together, not a lot, 5, 6 shifts. And I was like, what do you see here? Like, he's like, you know, and he's not really admitting it, but I could tell he's getting it. And I'm saying, like, if you go here, you're already there, whatever it was, right? And then the next game, he goes out and plays night and day better. And after the game, I was like, how do you think that game went? He's like, I thought it was good. I'm like, worst adjective ever, but okay, all right. I'm like, honestly, way better. That was way better. But I'm like, do you need me to spank you in the ass for you to play better? Or can you just do this? Like, you got to, like, figure this out, man. Like, because I'm not going to be able to do video with you every day, and not going to be able to, like, spank you in the ass every day. You got to, like, know, like, so it's like that whole learning process of, like, you've got this in you. You shouldn't have to see it and me, you know, getting pissed at you about it, you know, because I said to him, like, I don't care if you play AAA. And if you're going to play like this, we're not playing AAA anymore. I'm saving the money. Mom and dad are going on a trip. You guys can play house league and enjoy life and play with your buddies, and it'll be great. But, you know, so it's one of those things. So to your point, like, going back to the original piece, is like, I think it depends on the kid, where I think, yeah, they got to be pushed a little bit. And if my kid's coming to me saying, I want to play AAA on this team, well, this is here. Like, you got to get to here. If you're not going to be at this level and play at this level and compete at this level and practice in games, then what are we doing? Like, I'm not just flowing money out, because we all know how much competitive sports cost. Like, I'm not just flowing money out for this. Like, I'm way too conscious of money that I way rather save that money for my retirement rather than watch you blow my money doing this. You know what I mean? So, yeah, trying to like make them conscious of that. Number one, that, like, if you're not going to give it an honest effort every shift, then we're wasting our time. We're spinning our wheels right now. You know what I mean? So it was actually a good exercise with him. But I think you got to like see what your kids are like and how to hit those buttons with them. Cause to your point, like, if you were pushed more, would you have achieved more as a young athlete or a young, as a young student or whatever, right? And same with me, like
I might have achieved less. I might have achieved less though, because I might have just repelled and been like, get the F away from me. Like that could have happened. Yeah.
And maybe your parents knew, like, kind of what buttons to push. I don't know, but I am conscious of that though. Like now going through it, as when I look back on my childhood, I'm like, I don't know if my parents knew what they were doing. I have no idea, but they didn't have to push me. Like at times my dad came up to me when I was like 17, 18. He's like, Dwayne, you gotta take a day off. Like, you gotta settle down. Like you're going too hard right now. Like you gotta, and I was like, no, Dad, like, no. Like, and I didn't listen to him. I kept pushing, but I was like, no, like I gotta, I was small, I was undersized. I was like, I gotta be better than these guys. I gotta be stronger than these guys. I gotta be faster than these guys. Like, so yeah, it's just kind of knowing your kid and like how to approach them and how to push their buttons. Cause it's not easy for sure. Being a parent's not easy.
I want to go back. I mean, what you talked about with you, a big turning point was once you loved the game, the ice was there from October to March or whatever. So you could just go out when your homework was done and you could just do it. And you weren't all scheduled up like kids are today. I mean, I look where we are. I don't know how it is where you are. I'd love to know, but like one, you don't have that same outdoor rinks from October to March and that same access. But two, everybody's so scheduled up that even if you did, it'd just be like you and yourself, right? And you wouldn't have anyone to your left or your right to play with. So one, just how is it where you are? And two, how, how do you think about grind, right? And I don't mean forcing it upon them, but like, below a certain age, like they don't necessarily have the agency to be the keepers of their schedule, and they certainly don't have the wallet paying the bills for it. So how do you determine how much or how little to do, let alone what to do?
It's funny, man, because I'm probably old school coming from Sudbury. Like, so first question, I guess here in Detroit, the weather's hit and miss. Like I put an outdoor rink in at our house during COVID in London, when I was in London, Ontario. And I told the kids, I'm like, I don't care if you guys skate on it or not. We're in COVID. I'm just doing this for me. Like I totally did it for fun, just to see if I could do it. Had one up. They use it all the time. So from that point on, I did one every year. Even when we moved to Detroit, we bought a house and there was a bunch of lumber under the deck. And in November, I was like, you know what? Screw it. I'm going to grab this lumber. I'm going to build a rink. So I just built like a little rink out in the backyard, and the kids used it. It was great, but it's hit and miss. Like we'll get, 10 days on and then it'll melt up a bit. And then we'll get another 10, 15 days on. Like last year was good. The year before was brutal, but we'll see how it is this winter. But my thing with the kids though is like, and I look back at my own childhood, I'm like, I used to go grab pucks. Like I'd take about a little bag of pucks and a stick and a little piece of like plastic that I had, and I go to the school by our house in like the crappy months, and I would just shoot pucks against the brick wall. So like that's like an extreme, I get it, but it's like Sidney Crosby shooting pucks in his dryer, like whatever. But if you want it, like you can stick handle in your garage, you can go rollerblade outside, you can shoot pucks wherever. Like you can go find a cement wall somewhere to shoot pucks on, or you can shoot tennis balls. Doesn't matter. But if you want it, like you can go get it. And that's my thing with my kids. I gotta see you wanting it, So, I've been fortunate so far, like not 100% consistently, but I've seen like both my kids want it. Like both of them have been out on rollerblades. Both of them have been, without me saying anything, they just jump out. If we do have a rink, like they're out there, like they're going out after school or before school, they're going to shoot. Like, and it's unstructured. I'm not going out there with them. I will go out if they ask me to, but they go out on their own, and it's there for you guys. Like we have a little sport court in the backyard that I put up just for basketball and rollerblading or whatever, but they'll go out and do it. And that tells me a little something that they're willing to do it, So it's like, I have a hard time finding excuses. Like even a workout, like you give me a 10 by 10 room and I can do a workout in a 10 by 10 room. I can do push-ups. I can do squat jumps. Like, you know what I mean? So it's like, I didn't work out today because I was in a bad hotel room. Well, and they had no gym. Well, you can figure something out. So if you don't want to work out, that's totally fine. But if you're making excuses, like I'm not buying it, So I'm the same with my kids. Like there's, if you want to get better, you can get better. If you don't want to, that's totally up to you.
Everyone talks about the accessibility problem in the sport. And I mean, it's no secret why. The sport's a fortune, right? And then there's this whole keeping up with the Joneses. And in order to play AAA, you need to do the tournaments and travel. And then all the AAA kids are doing so much extra outside. And then there's all this FOMO about like, oh, you're doing that, I should be doing that too. Oh, you're doing this, I should be doing that too. So I get that, right? So on the one hand, you can say, oh, like if you're rich, you can just buy it, right? And you can like, work with like, I've heard crazy stories that people have like 5 different player development coaches for one kid, or, just, a bunch of handlers, right? But then on the other extreme, it's like, oh, like, what about the kid that like really wants it, but doesn't have all those resources? But then to your point, if that kid really wants it, like there's a way, right? Whereas if they're buying it, it's like, well, what is the motivation? Like, are they just doing it because it's there? Is it getting forced down their throat, or are they hungry? Right. And so I guess the question is, how do you balance providing resources with keeping them hungry? And, to the extent that there is I don't know, like, I guess just how do you think about that tension?
Yeah, I think for the parents that don't have the resources, it can be difficult sometimes, but you can do stuff at home. Like if your kid's super motivated and like loves the game, like you can, for free, basically, you can set up something where they can shoot pucks or they can stick handle pucks, or you can look online. There's a ton of free resources online where you can look at how to stick handle, how to work on your stick handling, how to work on your shooting, things like that, So I think there's, now in the age that we're at, like there's not really a lot of excuses for that. Now, the parents that don't have the resources, can you play AAA hockey? And like, no, you can't. It costs 10, 15 grand to play AAA hockey. Like it's insane, So it's tough that way. But if they're young enough, I think you just keep feeding the fire. I tell parents all the time, like my kid wants to play hockey 12 months a year. Like, and people are like, oh, they're going to get burned out. I'm like, no, they're not going to get burned out if they love it. If they love it, you feed the fire. If they're bucking you and they're like, hey, dad, I want to play soccer this summer, or I want to, go to the pool. Like, that's okay. Like, you gotta like, and some of the kids that are going to be elite out someday may want some time off, and that's okay. So I think that's the one thing. And even some of the parents that have resources and are paying for the kids to do all these privates and stuff like that, there's nothing wrong with that. If your kid wants to do it and you have the money to do it, fill your boots. Like if he's motivated or she's motivated and she wants to be on the ice and she wants to get better, like, and you have the money to do it, go ahead. I think the first part of what you said, I think is really important. The players that have 5, 6 coach, like development people in their skill coaches, whatever it is around them, it gets to be like scrambled eggs in their head. It gets to be too many, because I maybe tell them to do this and then the other ones tell them to do something different. And then it's too much. I think and this is what I said to guys when I was working with them when I was starting out all the way through, is if you're working with somebody else on skating, let me know and I'll lay off the skating part of it and I'll focus more on the shooting and the puck handling stuff. You know what I mean? And because I don't want to contradict what they're saying, and I don't want it to be too many messages for you. Just be open and honest with me. I don't care. And if you're working with me as a skill development coach and another skill development coach, then pick one. Doesn't have to be me, but pick one. Because if we're both working on puck handling, shooting, how to like protect the puck, and he's working on the same thing, then just go work with him, because we're going to have some different stuff for sure a little bit at some point. And go with whoever you trust. And for any parent that has resources, or if you have a good friend or whatever, and you trust them, then stay with 1 or 2 people. Like just trust that, try to, if you have an elite player like 13, 14, 15, and you're working with skill coaches, try to surround them with good people around them that genuinely care about them doing, because you know better than anybody, and I know better than anybody. A lot of these skill coaches are just there for the dollar. Like they're there for the $100 a session or $50 a session or whatever it is. You find a skill coach that genuinely cares and genuinely wants the best for your kid. Try to stick with that person, obviously, and like they want the best interest of your kid. Yeah, they're gonna make money on it. I've always been honest with them. Like I'm doing skills and running a private session. Like, yeah, it helps keep my hydro on, helps feed my family. But at the end of the day, like if you can't pay today, that's fine. Like we'll work it out. Like it was never about the money as much as it's my job. But if I love the kid and I want the kid to do well, like we'll figure out a way to make this work. You know what I mean? And so just surround your kid with good people that genuinely care about them and want them to do well and succeed, you know?
There's a narrative out there that the skill level of the game's never been higher, but the IQ or thinking the game has really suffered. Do you agree or disagree with that narrative, and why or why not?
I think we're seeing, like, you look at kids like Celebrini, you look at like some of these high-end young kids that are in the league right now, right? Like Fantilli, Celebrini, obviously like McDavid's a little bit older now, but I mean, hockey IQ is not terrible, and we've all heard these clips and stuff of all their kids just look at highlight reels right now. So look at all the highlight stuff, which I totally understand that, but can you develop a hockey IQ? I think you can. To a certain extent, you know, are you going to turn a kid who's not really grasping the game into a Wayne Gretzky or Connor McDavid? No, but can you help them understand the game a little bit better and understand situations better? For sure you can. And that's through, honestly, video and watching games and like sitting down with them and saying, hey, see what your left winger, see what the winger's doing here, see how they opened up, and like going through that stuff. And it may take 5, 10, 15, 20 times of going through video with them, but I think they can understand the game a little bit better, and I think that'll help them for sure. I feel the biggest difference from how the game's evolved is the skill level's gotten crazy good. I think the game's gotten way softer. And I think it's attitudes of the players, it's entitlement of the players, it's old school being out of the players, like all that stuff. Like we have some players on our team right now that, like, we have a player today that played with the foot blown out and had his skate cut open so he could put his foot in it and play through it. You don't see that anymore. Like, that's a 2-week injury out. I'll collect my paycheck. See ya after Christmas. You know what I mean? Like, those guys still exist, but we as parents, honestly, and coaches, we got to like cultivate that. Block shots. Like, it's part of the game. It is part of the game. And if you came to the NHL right now and you just finished all your hits, block shots, could handle a puck and make a pass, because they can all skate and shoot, and everyone, like, let's be honest, everyone in the draft right now can skate, shoot, pass. If you can block a shot, finish all your hits, and be good in the D zone, you can play in the NHL. Like, you know, I'm being very, but you know what I'm saying? Like, it's just, if you did those hard things that guys don't want to do, you'd separate yourself from other players. You know what I mean? So it's not difficult. And the hockey IQ part of it is just understanding your position, understanding what's demanded of you, what you need to do, and then rinse and repeat, and doing those things, right?
I hear a lot about, more and more chatter about, video, IQ, thinking the game, working on things like learning to scan and stuff like that. But I also hear more and more about stuff, and maybe it's a buzzword, I don't know, but like ecological coaching, environment, like, small groups, like high compete stuff, like stuff that, taught in ways that's far more translatable to the game environment. Are those separate threads or are those interrelated? It also seems like you've been talking about a lot of that stuff too. So it'd be great to understand just like where those fit into how you think about like your own development methodology.
As far as the compete side of it, I think you partly have it or you don't. You know what I mean? Like, you have kids and players that are competitive, and it's not even about like growing up, he always wanted to win at board games. He always wanted to win. That's fine, but does he always want to win when there's a stick in his ribs? Does he always want to win when there's a battle at the net? And is he going to go there? Like, are they willing to do those little things? So how do you make players tougher in those situations? Like, and a lot of it's innate. Like, a lot of players are going to go to that area, and some players are not going to go to that area, right? So can you put them in environments where they realize that it's not that bad? It's going to hurt for a second. I'm going to get a stick in the ribs. I'm going to get a stick in the back, but it's not that bad. And you know what? I'm going to get rewarded for this. I might tip a puck in. I might get a rebound. I might, you know what I mean? And that is that reward better than that stick in the ribs? Like, I think 100% it is, right? Some players don't think it is, and that's why they don't go there. There's like, I don't want to get a stick in the ribs. So, and more at the young ages, but as you get older and as you get like, to this level, let's say at the NHL, like, man, if you're willing to do that, you separate yourself from other players. So can you, in practice and in skill development sessions, can you put players in environments like that where you're like, these are the key areas that you got to be around. Like you got to be good on the wall. You got to understand how to pick up a puck on the wall. You got to understand how to control your body. You got to understand how to protect the puck. You got to understand how to get pucks to the net. You got to understand how to go to the net, give a target, bang home rebounds, be aware of what's going on around the net, box guys out, like all that stuff. And the more you can put kids in those competitive environments and they take those lickings in practice and they take those slashes and those sticks and those pucks in the shins and pucks to the feet, the more they're like, it's not that bad and they're willing to do it, So can we harness that? Can we enhance that? Can we, embrace that for sure? I think creating practice environments where kids have to do it or forced to do it, then hopefully we create more players that are willing to do those harder things,
Some of these things, it seems like there's debate around, how much is innate and how much can be taught. Are there things that you think can be taught that are falling through the cracks and largely not getting taught today? And if so, which things?
I think one thing that's come up like a bunch in the last bunch of years is like scanning the ice and pre-scanning and stuff like that. And that's something that I've been on for years now but like the more you pre-scan the game, and that's like without the puck coming, let's say you're on a back check and you're just coming back on a back check and you pre-scan and you're looking around, the more you see how much space you have, how much time you have, number one, you see where your outs are, you see where defenders are. I think it slows the game down for players, but it's a really, really hard skill. Because you'll watch NHL games right now. If you go out tonight and watch highlights or whatever, you'll see players coming back just staring at the puck in the play and never look around them. You know what I mean? So just getting players more adapt to scanning, pre-scanning, things like that, I think is huge. I think that's one part of the game that as minor hockey coaches, we can teach the players way more and get them as the part of their habits. When they're coming back on a back check, they're just looking around. So now they know that puck gets rung around the ice. I know when I go there, I know that D's not pinching, right? Or I know that D's pinching, so now I got to box him out, try to make a play on the wall and kick it out or whatever I got to do with it. But so I think that's one big thing. But I think there's a lot of like little things like that in the game that we can help our young kids understand and get better at. That'll help them, like obviously as they get to more elite levels. You know what I mean? And another one that's super simple and it involves zero skills, communication, just calling for pucks, talking to each other on the ice. Like the game's got quieter and quieter over the years, which is crazy. But even in minor hockey, a lot of the kids don't talk. They're literally wide open in the middle of the ice and they don't call for the puck. So just having our kids like communicate a little bit more. So you talk about scanning, pre-scanning, and communication. There's your breakout right there. You know what I mean? There's your entry right there. Like it's just makes the game so much easier. So there's a lot of little things that we can help these kids. And that, comes back to probably ties in with, your hockey IQ part of it as far as making the game easier. Like if I'm talking to a guy who's not very smart on the ice and telling him I'm wide open, now all of a sudden he gets a puck on the wall, just kicks it to the middle and I score. He looks like a genius. But it's just because I talked and I told him I was open in the middle of the ice and he gave it to me and I scored, right? So those are all things that kind of tie back into that whole like nuance of hockey as far as those little habits that the players can get that'll help them obviously from now, like minor hockey all the way through to the next level.
It seems like there's all these little tricks. So like, and even though I played hockey a bunch growing up, I feel like in many ways I'm learning the game for the first time today. So I'm much more of a student of it than a master, to be clear. But like deception, for example, using deception, whether it's deception with your feet, deception with your hands, deception with the stick, deception with your head, right? There's stuff like if how to handle the puck on the wall and like using the board, the boards as your friend, like things like that. And I would suspect that a lot of that got learned growing up through hours and hours and hours of shinny like you. But the fact that most of these kids don't have access to hours and hours and hours of shinny, how much of that can be taught? How important is it that it gets taught? And what are the best ways to teach it? It's like the long tail of all the little tricks.
Yeah, honestly though, like, even looking at like the AHL guys, the NHL guys, so you're looking at like let's say the top of the spear, right? there's guys like even in the NHL right now that I'm still working on wall work and how to pick it up with your stick. Because let's say you're going in the boards, puckets, rimmed around the ice. A lot of times players want to pick it up with their feet. Well, are you faster picking up with your feet on a flat puck coming around, or are you faster picking up with your stick? Way faster with your stick, and now you can make a play with it. Whereas you go over with your feet, now you're stuck with your feet. Now you got to get it to your stick. It's an extra step, right? So even to this day, I'm still working with guys on like stick positioning, how to pop it off the wall, how to get it to a spot where you can make a play. And every rim's going to be a little bit different, whether it's spinning a lot, whether it's, bouncing, rolling, whatever. But so I think like a lot of that stuff, like if you gave me a player right now at 13 years old on rims, let's just say just rims, in 10 minutes, I could have him picking up rims on his forehand and backhand, no problem, smooth. Now, I want him to rep it like continuously for the next months, like to get better and better. Because even guys that are really, really good at it on our team rep it all the time. Like that's something like that's like taking a piano lesson. And how do you start every piano lesson? You go through your, you go through your chords, you go through your notes, you go through your scales, right? Same thing in hockey. Like that should be one of the fundamental things: stick handling, skating. And then as you get better and older, it's rims, like picking up pucks off the wall, just boom, boom, and just repping it. So you can teach it. It's not hard. It's just knowing the proper technique on how to do it. And then, for coaches too that are trying to teach this to their kids, like look up the proper technique on how to pick up a rim. Don't just try to like ad lib what you did in men's league hockey, because that's not going to translate for, for them being an elite player at 13, 14 playing AAA. Like they got to know how to pick these up, right? So I think just repping that stuff and like knowing how to teach it is huge. But there's stuff that we work on all the time that are very, very fundamental that are a huge impact in the game.
I mean, at the NHL level, I get that there can be a coaching staff, and on that coaching staff, you can have people that are specific to skills, and within that, be teaching all these little skills like we've been talking about. I mean, it sounds, and tell me if you disagree, but that teaching these skills is something that could be done at a much younger age. And I guess my question is that, one, it seems like a lot of coaches don't know how to teach it. Two, they don't necessarily have the time to learn. They might be volunteer coaches, dad or mom coaches, full-time jobs, maybe multiple kids that play, coaching multiple teams, right? But then also they have like 2 50-minute sheets, and maybe they're even half ice, and they got 15 kids on the ice plus some goalies or whatever. And it's like, they don't even know like where to stand on a breakout. Like, you think I'm going to be able to like work with each kid on like all the little long tail nuances to make their game better? Like, no way. Like, I don't have the time. So I guess my question is, what is a realistic way for more kids coming up to get access to this kind of teaching, and whose job is it?
Yeah, no, you bring up a great point. Like, it's tough in minor hockey because you're stuck on ice times, you're stuck on coaching, resources for sure. Can you implement this stuff in your practices? For sure you can. And again, if you know how and you have the resources to be able to do it, whether it's looking online or wherever it is, to teach it and be able to do it. But it is a big ask sometimes for minor hockey coaches to be able to teach these kids all this stuff, definitely. So I think for parents, it's trying to look at other programs, other places that might be able to teach or might be able to like help, you know what I mean? And again, that's a big ask on parents, because now you're going, from hockey, or you're going to a private lesson or a skill session to hockey practice, or now you've got 5 days a week, you're tied up. Like, it's a lot, so there's no perfect answer to this at all. I think the biggest thing is, it comes back to, how much time and how much resources you want to invest in the sport. And depending on your player, if your player's a solid, a really, really good player that wants to get better, that wants to do stuff, then I think it maybe you do invest a little more resources in it, but there's no perfect answer to that. Like, that's a tough one. If I'm a coach of a minor hockey team, do I spend time on breakouts, or do I spend time on picking up rims and making passes? I spend time on picking up rims and making passes, because the breakout part is fine, but if I can't pick up a rim and make a pass, I can't break out anyway. So let's work on that part first, and then let's go to the other part, So I may have a bit of a different approach than some of the coaches, because I look a lot of, like, let's say a power play, for instance, on a 10-year-old team. Like, parents are like, oh, we got to work on our power play. Like, we can't make 3 passes in a row. So we can't run a power play anyway because we can't make 3 passes in a row. So let's work on making passes first before we work on, you know what I mean? So that's like kind of gradually building into that power play practice, let's call it, right? So I think I think it's really important to see where your team's at and then work on what that team needs in that time period and then go from there, you know?
Yeah, I mean, there's different ways to address the problem from my seat. I mean, one, there's kind of a coach the coaches path or train the trainers or whatever, where you get more coaches to understand how to teach this way. And that might be a way to raise the skill level in the game and to have more of that translate, which would be good for players and families and good for the game, right? Like scaling the high-end player development guy or girl model where you look at the what the D1 or the juniors or the NHL players are getting working with someone like you, right? And it's like, how do you scale that in a way that isn't so human intensive? And is there a way to do it, right? And I guess the last one is for some of the coaches that maybe do know how to do it, but don't have the time in their 2 50-minute practices a week or whatever, like what can be done off the ice in between sessions, whether it be dry land, whether it be video, whether it be playing NHL, on Xbox or something. But I mean, maybe react to each of those, or if you have any other ideas of just like how we might, because like I look at what's in your head, for example, and it's like I want my kid to have that, and any parent listening or kid who's serious about the game will be like, I want access to that. But if you look percentage wise at the kids who want it and the kids who get it, I think there's a huge discrepancy, right? Like a lot more, like the vast majority, like a ton of kids want it, and out of those kids, I bet it's single digit percentages that actually get it, right? And so how do you raise that percentage, and what are the ways to do it? It doesn't necessarily need to be a commercial way, but I mean, it might be, right? But just like, how do we do it as a sport?
If I'm coaching like a minor hockey team and all my kids get better, I think the biggest thing is, to your point, like we're going to have 2 50-minute sheets or 2 hour-and-a-half sheets or whatever it is. So that's fine, but not a ton, and might split ice with other teams. So can our kids on those other days off, can they spend, on a sheet or whatever, on a whatever Excel sheet, doesn't matter, that you share, but like, hey, can you guys spend 10 minutes on those off nights shooting pucks or stick handling, or, so you hold them accountable a little bit. They're going against their peers. Some of the parents will put in their numbers bullshit and just, kind of fill it in for Johnny, but a lot of those kids will do it, and you're holding them. Now mom and dad are like, hey, did you shoot your pucks today? Like, coach wants you to shoot pucks today. And that's what I found even with my own kids is like, I'm not telling you to run a mile today. This is from your coach. Like, I want you to run a mile. Like, as a parent, I want you to run a mile, but your coach is telling you to do it. So if you don't want to do it, that's fine. And that held them a little bit more accountable to it. So even just, and honestly, like you've seen it, Jace, like just stick handling in the garage, stick handling, like waiting for your bus, just working on your, like, it does translate, man. I've had NHL guys work on stick handling in their garage and have felt way better on the ice. Like, and their hands have gotten better. Like, and that's at that. So think of like a 10, 12, 13, 14-year-old that just spends time in their garage, just stick handling and working on patterns, not just like chopping tomatoes, but just working on patterns of fake up, back. And I think when you're working on stick handling, not working on chopping vegetables, but just working on like patterns. Because if you look at the NHL right now, let's say the best league in the world, how many times are guys like toe dragging guys and making sick plays? Or how many times are guys like faking, pulling back, shooting? Like, that's a great move. And just work on that. Fake pullback shot. Like, that's something you're going to use way more than fake toe drag to the backhand, back to the forehand. But like, that's not going to happen. Like, you're never going to get that chance. Like, working on like little sequences that you're going to work on that could happen in a game. It could be getting a backhand pass. You starting your backhand, pull it your forehand shot, backhand, forehand shot, backhand, forehand shot. That's going to happen in a game. You know what I mean? So like working on things, I call them, little sequences that you're going to see in a game, rather than working on all this crazy stuff that you're never going to use in a game. Let's just work on these 3 little moves that is going to allow you to get a shot through a stick. It's going to allow you to get a shot through a shin pad or around a player, or, you know what I mean? So I think dumbing it down a little bit for coaches and be like, hey, I just want you to work on these 3 moves for the next week. And then these 3 moves for the next week. You know what I mean? And you can keep adding on to it. But I think something like that for coaches where the kids do have a little bit of accountability, that they have to do stuff away from the rink. Because if you're going to be a good player, whether you're playing A, double A, whatever it is, and you want to really, make that double A team or you want to make that triple A team, well, how are you going to separate yourself? Well, it's this kind of stuff. It's working on stuff at home a little bit. It's and if coaches can help motivate them a little bit and keep them accountable a little bit for it, that'd be huge.
It seems like there's almost like, I don't know if they're conflicting or complementary, but there's some people that are out there talking about how the best way to grow the best way to produce more stars, right, is just to grow the funnel and keep them loving the sport. And if more and more of the best athletes choose hockey and stick with hockey, then more top players are going to come out the other side, right? So it's almost like a funnel strategy, right? Like a top of the funnel strategy. And then there's other people that just talk about how like most coaches don't know how to coach, and we need to teach them better how to coach, and they're not teaching IQ, and they're not teaching how to think the game, and they're not teaching systems and breakouts and moving without the puck and whatever. And if we arm them with the skills, right, then it will shepherd people through the funnel, right, at a more effective rate and help them get further and spread their wings. I mean, is there one of those that resonates to you more than the other, or is it really is it both and?
There's a big barrier to entry for hockey because it costs a lot of money. So you might have some unbelievable athletes that choose basketball, baseball, lacrosse, whatever, because they can't really afford hockey. It's too much, and that's unfortunate because we're going to lose some of these like potentially unreal hockey players at 5, 6, 7, 8 that just, it's too much for their family, which I understand. I think, and the one thing with the NSDA even was, how can we help tool some of these coaches on how to teach fundamental skills to these players? So at the end of the day, who touches these players more than anybody? Number one's going to be the parents. So how are the parents communicating to them? What are they like? If you're trying to coach your son's team and you're telling little Johnny, like, you gotta distribute the puck, like you got a 2-on-1 and he's wide open back door and you're shooting high and wide all the time, you got to make that pass. But then Johnny goes home in the car, he's like, hey, great shot, I just missed. You got to keep shooting that puck, don't pass. Like, Albert can't pick that puck up anyway. Like, then you're in a battle, right? And that happens all the time, right? So at the same time, like, how can you better equip these coaches to help coach these kids? And that's the biggest thing, like, I think, is all these coaches we have, probably thousands, hundreds of thousands of coaches that we have across America, Canada, whatever. Some of them aren't equipped to coach. Like, they don't even, they're a dad, like you said earlier, like their dad, they got a daughter in dance, they got a son playing lacrosse, and they're running a hockey practice, don't have a practice plan, just, hey, we're going to do the J drill and a 2-on-1 drill, and then we'll scrimmage. Like, that's your practice on a Monday. Like, what a waste of time, So how do we better equip these coaches? Because they're going to have the best hands on these players, And it sounds like an impossible task, which it kind of is. But, can we help these coaches help these players? And the more we can help the coaches, the more the coaches help the players, the more, we can help develop these players. But, is there a perfect way of doing it? No. Is there, and that's kind of based on associations and who the coach mentor is and how they're delivering the product and how they're delivering like their messaging. But it's tough. But I think at the end of the day, like, the coaches have the biggest impact on these players from 6 years old, 7 years old, 8 years old, 9 years old, all the way up. And we've all had our kids in seasons where it's been like, we just spun our tires. It was a waste of a year, And that sucks.
So one is just around, and it's funny, we've made it like an hour and 15 minutes, and we haven't talked at all about the Redwings, which is interesting because, I mean, that's your day job. But which, so we probably should at some point. But before we do, I'm curious to talk to you about tech and analytics and what role that's playing for you, if any, and how you think about kind of the evolving landscape as it relates to, call it the eye test versus Billy Bean.
Analytics is a big part of the game, obviously, especially at the high levels, like at all levels, probably not so much minor hockey, but as you get into college and pro and stuff like that. I think I think it does say something. If you have a player that's generating offense and doing stuff and shows up analytically, that's like, wow, that's great. But also, I think a lot of hockey is still the old school eye test. Like when a player's playing hard, when a player's battling, when a player shies away from a hit, So I think that resonates more than the analytics. But I think the analytics do show like, wow, these two D are our best two shut down D, or this forward generates the most offense on our team. But this forward that generates the most offense also shies away from every hit on the eye test because that's not going to show up analytically. Like there's no analytics saying that he jumped away from checks or he pulled up on a check, right? So I think it's a combination of both, and you got to really like as a coach at higher levels, you got to really be able to see the game and understand the game, obviously, but then also like see your players and understand your players individually. So your analytics may be off the charts for a player, but he's soft and he never goes to the net, and he's always sitting in the corner. So he gets 2 assists a game, but he's always in the corner because when a rebound goes out, it gets to him. Then he gives it the point shoots, they score, or whatever. You got to still see the game. You know what I mean? If you base all your decisions on just analytics, it might work like Moneyball, like it may work, but I don't know if it's sustainable. I think especially with hockey, it's so emotional, it's so physical. You need more than just analytics. Like you know what I mean. Guy leads your team in hits, that's fine, but he's not even our toughest guy or our biggest hitter. He just ended up registering 4 hits tonight. Like that's not indicative of what the game was like. This guy played way harder and he only had 2 hits. This guy had 6 hits, but he was way harder, way harder. You know what I mean? So it's like, I think it does play a big part of the game, but I think you still gotta like the eye test, I think is massive. And even when scouts are going out to watch players, I think they're not looking so much at analytics. They're looking at eye tests when they're going to watch players. So I think when players are playing and scouts are watching, when you get to that age of 15, 16, and all the way up to 20, you got to play, man. You just got to be a player. Like you got to do what you do well and just do it.
And with your player or skills coach hat on with the Red Wings, how much of your job is players coming to you and saying, I want to work on this or I want to work on that, versus you watching film, for example, and determining here's what I think you need to work on?
It's a bit of both. Like it's more of a conversation. Like I shouldn't say I would never, but I would always have a conversation with the player first. I'd have an objective that I want to cover with him, but I'd have the conversation first and get him to sway towards that, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? So it's like me going to a player and saying like, hey, you got to work on your skating, or hey, how do you think your skating is? I'm great. I think I'm good. I'm above average. And then I'm me saying, I think you got to work on your skating. They're not going to buy in. So you got to kind of talk to them and be like, hey, how do you find your quick starts and stuff? Like, I saw this guy beat out of the corner. Like, yeah, I got to get better at that. Okay, let's work on that. So now I can tweak it so I can massage it that it's coming from him a little bit. So, and then sometimes players will flat out be like, man, I'm not scoring right now. I'm like, yeah, here, let's check these clips out. And like, look, you're getting crowded, or you're not getting an open ice, or you're overhandling the puck. So the D are getting sticks on it. You got to, when you're driving in the zone, don't stick handle, just get it set and then fire it. So it's a bit of both for sure, but there's a lot of conversation with guys. And yeah, like tonight I just had a conversation with a player before the game, showed some clips and some stuff, and of just hanging on to pucks more and getting off the wall and moving his feet. And he went out tonight, played really, really well, and like ended up getting a point tonight and like played really good. And after the game, he's like, man, I felt, not because of that conversation at all, but we kind of revisited what we talked about. I'm like, dude, you did exactly what we talked about. Like you got off the wall, you cut guys off, you added some little fakes in there. Like it was really good. Like, and so it's building rapport with the players and then figuring out, what type of player that player is and what he needs to work on or what he needs to do better to help his game improve. Right. So, yeah.
So how much of that comes from watching film or watching them live in the games? And when you do watch film or watch them live in the games, how much do you need to see in order to have enough to make an assessment? And what tools are you using or what are you looking for in order to inform that assessment?
Depends on the player, but like honestly, I can look at like I love watching games live, to be honest with you. So, being on the road with the Red Wings and stuff is great because I'm always at the home games, obviously, and then with them at practice and stuff. So I can see kind of everything that's going on. With the way the season is this year, as condensed as it is, we don't have a lot of practice time. We still practice, but it's not, crazy intense. So games are great. So watching them live for our group right now, I can tell right away what guys are lacking or needing or whatever, right? As far as individuals. If I'm looking at like a prospect or something like that, because the way my job goes is anybody that gets drafted by the Red Wings kind of would fall into my plate. So I could have players in Europe, I could have players playing in the CHL, I could have players playing in college, and I'll watch games with them and then get on video like this with them and go through their clips, like 2 games usually. And within those 2 games, I can tell within 2 or 3 games, I can see like, and for the players playing college, junior, whatever it is, I'm looking at how does that game translate to the pro level? Like, I don't care about how you play in college. That's great. You're a really good player in college. Your coach probably playing you 20, 22 minutes. You're cheating. You're cheating offense. I get it, but are things translating that could translate to the pro level? You know what I mean? And within a game or two, within like, 10, 15 shifts, I can tell like, okay, this player's got it, or this player needs to work on this or whatever it is. You know what I mean? So it happens pretty quick, honestly. Now that I've been doing it for a long time, you can see like, and it's all those fundamentals I talked about. It's like, are you finishing your hits? Are you tracking? Are you skating? Are you able to hang on to pucks? Can you protect pucks? Are you, if you're an offensive guy, are you taking pucks to the net? If you're a player that's going to play net front, are you going to the net? Are you being a prick in front of the net? Are you boxing out in front of the net? If you're D-man, are you getting good exits? Are you making good plays? Are you, so you can pick it up pretty quick, but yeah, it doesn't take long to figure out if a player's kind of got it or doesn't have it.
Is doing what you do an apprentice business or apprentice skill set, and could you teach someone to do it, or is the only way to do it just to go and live it and figure it out for yourself?
Yeah, probably. I think if you had like, and I guess, yeah, I mean, even in London, like, so in London I was doing it all by myself to start. And then I had another gentleman join me, Scott Jones. He's now with Vegas. He's Vegas' skills coach as a consultant, does it kind of part-time, but he got into that because of me. I brought him to Washington with me when I was in Washington, and he got into it that way. And then Kevin Galarno is another guy who came on with me in London, and now he's helping us out in GR in Detroit. So, I think over the years you learn how to teach well, you learn how to pick up stuff, you learn how to pick up good things, bad things. And, so yeah, I think being around the right people and getting the right instruction, I think that, yeah, I think you can teach the right people how to do it and do it well. Like, we've been very fortunate. We've got, since I've been in London, we've got, 2 guys working in the NHL with myself included. And then we've got another guy in the AHL comes in for development camp. We've got another 2 guys coaching university hockey and helping out the university teams. And these are all players or guys that played and then now are kind of coming through. So yeah, I think being in the right environment and learning and is definitely, you can teach it. There's going to be different levels like everything, right? As far as, you're going to have welders that are unbelievable welders and some are just good and they can put your stuff together, but they might break after a year or two, who knows? But overall, it's been good.
How much have you been playing around with AI, if at all? Like, do you use like ChatGPT or Claude or any of those things? Have you tried talking to them, asking them questions like you would on Google?
No, I honestly haven't. Like, aside from like Google popping up AI research that they randomly do, but I haven't messed around with AI enough, and I'm very intrigued by it. Probably a little bit intimidated by it, not in a bad way, but just I don't even know where to start. You know what I mean? So I haven't gone into it, but it's something that that I'm definitely interested in for sure.
Yeah, because one of the things I've been thinking about is like if I were to shadow you, for example, and like anytime you watch film, like get inside your brain, like what do you see? Like, and then like annotate the clip and annotate what you saw, and then take a note next to the clip of what you saw and why, right? Then with enough reps, right? Like a long tail of reps over a
Yeah, yeah.
sustained amount of time of, like, let's say thousands and thousands and thousands of shifts, or tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands, right? Like, if you did that and you had all that data and you fed it to the machine, look, I'm not technical at all, so I'm not, but I see the way, for example, like ChatGPT, I talk to it all the time, and actually it remembers everything I've talked to it about, and then it uses that context when it answers my question. So I'll ask it a question about player development, and it'll say, or like I asked it a question today, like, help me prepare for your podcast, right? And it says, based on your style of X, Y, and Z, and how you like to, use your show to accomplish these set of things, like, here are some topics that might be interesting, giving everything I just scoured on the web to learn about you. So, like, could you teach the machines to, like, think like you do, right? So that's one thing I've been thinking about. I got another thing, but I'm going to stop there because I want you to react to that.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. Like if that's, yeah, obviously that's where things are going for sure. I think that even assessing players, like knowing my aptitude to players, what I like about players, what I don't like about players, and let's say that ChatGPT followed me for 10,000 shifts of players random. They would have an idea of what I like, what I don't like. I like toughness. I like players that have skill. I like, you know what I mean? So then they would adapt that way. You know what I mean? And I think it'd be unbelievable. I still think part of it's going to be a little bit of the eye test too. You know what I mean? If I send him a player to, let's say, ChatGPT, watch this player and tell me what you think, it might give me an assessment of, like, this player's 99 out of 100, and I watch the player and I'm like, this player sucks, like, for whatever reason, body language sucks or whatever it is, you know what I mean? So again, it's another tool, right? This is all new, but it's coming fast, and I'm open to tools like this that can help us maybe speed our job up, or help us assess players, or whatever it is. I think it's kind of cool.
On a related topic, if you sat down with your son or daughter and you watched, call it a Redwings game, call it a college game, call it a high school game, whatever, and you sat in the stands, maybe at center ice, midway up, so that you had like a good, kind of bird's eye view of what was happening on the ice, and you talked them through the game, and then you had the ability to pause it at key moments and ask them questions in a consultative way, the way that you were describing asking your son in the car. You weren't telling him like you played like crap. You were asking questions, right? In order to get him to get his brain around it, right? Is that an effective way to teach IQ and how to think the game?
For sure. Like, even stopping let's say a 2-on-1 or a zone entry and be like, hey, what do you think is going to happen here? Or what are you seeing right here? And have like it's like anything. It's like going to school. It's like problem solving. Like, what do you think is going to happen here? It might not happen. That's fine. But what can you see happening? Or what do you think is going to happen here? I think that's a great way. And now with like technology, which is very basic, but like you can watch a game with your kids and pause it and be like, hey, what do you see here? Hey, or on this goal, even just all the goals, just play them back and pause them and be like, hey, what happened here? Why did this goal get scored? Well, the D didn't box this guy out, or the D didn't take a stick in front of the net and the guy got a tip, or the forward didn't go out and block this shot, or the forward, missed this pass and didn't have a stick in the lane. Like, I think all that stuff helps players like understand that when they're in that position, hopefully they're not that they're going to remember it, but hopefully over time they'll adjust a little bit and be better in those situations,
Another thing I've been thinking about is, imagine an app that would show you a clip, stop it, ask those questions, enable you to engage with it, and then teach you, essentially almost like model the way that you would teach your son or daughter in the stands, and turn it into an automated experience like a game, where you could get a score, where you could progress through levels, where you could see how you're doing against your teammates, where you could see how you're doing against other people like you. And if you do it enough, right, similar to how, like, if you take a standardized test, like it's almost like the better you do, the harder the questions you get, right? It's like it could start mapping out like, oh, this person is weaker in this area, so I'm going to focus more on that area to round. I'm going to do less over there because they're solid, right? And like round out their IQ, where maybe with enough reps and enough scale, your score comes to mean something to coaches and scouts.
No, totally. Like now with the kids with games and phones and iPads and stuff, like I mean, they're everything's about scores, everything's about yeah, all that kind of stuff. So I think anything like that would be kind of cool for kids to help them learn the game for sure.
Last question on that topic is if you actually want to teach IQ effectively, can you do it in this kind of format, whether it's human or machine, just like digitally and in lean back mode, or do you have to get people on the ice in order to actually have
No,
anything sink in?
no, I mean, we go through video like at the NHL level, like daily, you know what I mean, with players individually or with the team or special teams or whatever it is. So I think seeing it as a player, whether it's your individual shift or a scenario, I think is good. I think you'll learn from that. And then, you know, the idea is that being able to implement that on the ice, you know what I mean? So does it have to be directly translated right away? No. I think will kids develop a little bit of a hockey IQ just by watching clips like that, where it's not just watching a clip and seeing a goal and be like, oh, it's cool. But now it's like you got to answer questions, you got to see it, you got to maybe watch it again and see what happens. Like I think that would go further than just watching highlight clips. And then if there's a way to implement that on the ice after would be huge. Now that could be with coaches, that could be with your practice, that could be with a skill coach, whatever. But yeah, I think that alone would, the fact that you're stopping it, having them think about it, having them answer questions, getting it wrong, having to do it again, let's say, you know what I mean? Like however that played out, I think would be more impactful for sure.
Yeah, when I talk to ChatGPT, for example, it's starting to tell me because I ask it like, hey, if I wanted to do, to teach this kind of thing in hockey, like what are some comps of other areas I should go study? And so it's pointed me to other sports like football or soccer, for example. So like the same thing, like soccer or UK, football. But it's also pointed me to stuff I wouldn't have thought about, like esports, like chess, like pilot training, like military simulations, right? So one of the things that I'm going to do as part of my expedition is not just dig deeper with smart hockey minds like you, but actually go and kind of study how stuff like this gets taught in other areas and what can you bring back to the sport.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm
No, it's
excited
cool.
about it. I'm early, but I'm excited about that kind of additional leg of the expedition, if you will.
Yeah, that's cool. That's really cool.
Yeah. So the last topic for you is I had a college coach on recently, and he was talking about. Well, I've done a bunch of actually relevant episodes to this topic, and it's all the changes that are happening in the development path, right? The portal, the Canadian Major Juniors, NIL, right? And
Yeah.
all the lawsuits that are changing all the rules, kind of underneath our feet and I say "are" as if I'm in the business. I'm just a dad here with the show. So I'm not in the business, at least not yet. So there's been a theme like the USA Hockey, approach is like, oh man, like it's a harder road for our players, and like we need to step up our efforts, right? College Hockey Inc. people are like, this is great for the NCAA, right? Because like now, like we have a bigger pool to pull from, and we're going to get the best players from wherever they are. So like these great players don't need to be off limits anymore, right? From a coach's perspective in college, or at least this one guy hasn't shipped yet, but he was saying, like it's not that I don't like the rules. It's that I don't like that the rules keep changing under my feet because I keep getting thrashed. So that was kind of one complaint. And another complaint was it's just gotten really transactional. It's transactional for players and families. It's transactional for coaches. It's more about recruiting than it is about development, right? And it's also just like, selfishly, as like a New England college, it's a harder road for the local kids, right? So that's just some context. My question for you, given that you're with an NHL team, is what are you seeing from that perspective as it relates to those topics?
It's interesting because at the NHL level, it doesn't really matter because we're going to get these kids drafted at, honestly, like,
yeah, as long as you get them, who cares the path, right? As long as they end up.
So I shouldn't say it doesn't really matter. It gives the NHL teams now more of a broader pathway for these kids, right? So if you have a kid who's a really good player at 18, let's say, then he wants to go to college, be like, no, stay in major junior because you're going to play 72 games and you're going to, it's a longer season because the two like NCAA and CHL is way different. Like CHL is more modeled after the NHL. They play 70 whatever games, they have playoffs, they have a Memorial Cup. Like college, you play 40 games. Like we have kids in our system right now that their season's done right now. Like they've already played 40 games. They're done. And they got to play another 30. You know what I mean? So they're like, some of them are like gassing out. Like they're like, not gas, you know what I mean? They're going to dip a bit. They'll be fine. But so development model wise, it just depends, right? For the players themselves, I think it's great. Like, I think it's going to take a year or two to figure out how to navigate this whole thing with all these players. Like, because right now it's like everyone's jumping everywhere and like everyone's all over the place. But I think it'll settle down a little bit where now, a high-end draft pick in the third round is going to go play in the CHL for a year or two and then going to go to North Dakota or Michigan or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, they're going to have scholarships locked up. They're going to go play in the CHL for a year or two and then go, you know what I mean? So it's really, really interesting, but as far as the foundation moving around and everything, like it's going to take a year or two for everything to settle and then figure it all out. I think it's really interesting that this happened because it comes down to money at the end of the day. Let's be honest. Like it's just more about, the whole thing is a bit of a mess. And the NCAA is the juggernaut where they, for whatever reason, decided to do this, which is crazy whether they got pushed or whatever happened. But now that it's open, I think it's just going to I think it's going to give some of these younger players coming up now in the next 2-3 years some options to play. You know what I mean? Like some different options to be able to play and pursue their careers. And, you get a kid playing in the CHL till they're 19, 20, go to a school, get an education, then go play pro. It's great. You're going to have some kids that are going to go one and done. They're going to go to CHL for a year, college for a year, and then pro, or right from the CHL to pro. Like that's not going to change, but I think the whole landscape is very interesting right now.
If you had one wish for the game or one change you could make that would be most impactful in pushing the game forward, what would it be and why?
Most impactful change for the game, I think, honestly, I would go back to minor hockey. I'd go back to minor hockey parents. I would tell minor hockey parents, just relax. And honestly, and I've said this ad nauseum, but just create good people, create good kids. Worry about your kid being say please, thank you, open doors. And I'm not talking crazy good people. I'm just being be a good person. We just, there's an incident at a rink just the other day, nothing bad or anything, but 3 or 4 kids on my daughter's team went and got something for free from somebody. And one person said, thank you to this person for giving them something for free. And I'm like, it's not, that to me is a big thing. It's just, that is bigger than them scoring a goal in the game. I don't care if you win or lose, just play hard, but just be good people. So for parents, don't worry if both your kids' skates are sharpened and both their blades are in their bags and they got 3 new sticks. Just worry about them saying, hey, mom, dad, thanks for getting those sticks for me. Thanks for, you know what I mean? It's just, that goes way further for me. And I'm hard on my kids about this, it's just create good people. And we see it now at the NHL level, these young prospects that come in. We have a couple kids that have come in this year, even, that are unbelievable humans, man. Unreal humans, and they are good players and they're playing really well, and they're young, but they're good parents, good people. They and we have some kids that not even here, just all over, that just they expect everything. They've arrived and they want everything, and everything should be given for free and everything. It's just create good people, man. Just don't even worry about skill development. Don't worry about anything. Just create good kids. Just be a good parent, create good kids.
As we're getting ready to wrap up here, where do you want to be personally in 10 years? What do you want to be doing?
10 years. Oh, jeez.
We're around the same age, so you'll be kind of, getting up there.
Yeah. I don't know, man. I've honestly really enjoyed what I do. I feel like I feel like I'm still 21, so I could probably still do this for a little bit longer, but I don't know. I really enjoy what I'm doing. I don't know. It depends. Once my kids get older and get out, maybe I'll, look at maybe getting back into coaching, or I don't know. But as of right now, the development side, I really enjoy meeting these kids at young ages and like trying to, help them through, college, Europe, wherever they are, and then get them in a minor, to the AHL and then hopefully the NHL. So I've honestly really enjoyed what I'm doing. So 10 years from now, I just hope I'm still bald and beautiful. That's it.
Is there anything I didn't ask that you wish I did, or any parting words for listeners?
No, I'm nothing, man. I think the game of hockey is awesome. It's given me a ton. Obviously, being able to work in the NHL is unbelievable. I would have never thought that when I was growing up at 9 and 10 and starting to play hockey. So I think for all these parents, like, for your kids, if your kids are saying, I want to play in the NHL and stuff, I'm like, yeah, like it's a stretch for any kid. Doesn't matter how good they are, how bad they are right now. But who knows, man? There's tons of avenues to get to the NHL. You know what I mean? Like I've been fortunate to be working in the NHL for a number of years now. And there's what I do. There's coaching, there's GMing, there's refereeing, there's like a lot of stuff. So I think just, feed the fire, man. If your son or daughter loves it, and now with the PWHL, which is super cool for these young girls that are, coming up now and that want to play, and like, even my daughter's mentioned, like, it'd be cool to play in the PWHL. I'm like, 100%. Like, and I was that kid. I was a kid saying I'm going to play in the NHL. Like, no chance, now looking out as dad, like, no chance you're playing in the NHL. But man, yeah, who knows? Like, who knows, So it's just, yeah, feed the fire and just create good humans, man. Just create good people and just, yeah, feed the fire.
It's not a surprise that you're saying that. It's one of the reasons I was excited to do this episode, is that you're so accomplished in the game and you're working at the highest levels in the game, but that's your perspective. Like, it's just such a rational, down-to-earth perspective, which it seems like, unfortunately, is few and far between in the sport these days. It's kind of off the deep end all around. And I mean, one of the reasons I'm not rushing to build is that, like, I have to check myself, right? As anyone who is around me, as a hockey dad would know, like, I'm pretty invested in it. I want to get the balance right. I don't want to have regrets. And I certainly don't want to rush to go build a platform to help a lot of others through the path and then realize, 5 or 10 years later that I was part of the problem. Right. So, it's really helpful to have discussions like this. And yeah, I'm so appreciative you made the time.
No, it's great, man. No, thanks for having me. This is great. It's really good.
Okay. Thanks, Dwayne.
Awesome. All right, buddy.
Thanks for listening to Puck Academy. If you enjoyed this episode, follow or subscribe wherever you get your podcast and share it with someone serious about their game. See you next week.